I remember when I was in really young,
Mm.
my church pastor used to give me his old PC magazines. And
Okay.
every now and then they would have a live CD of a distro or something like that. So it was like APC, PC user, and all those sorts of
Mhm,
things.
mhm.
And I seem to remember one specifically was KDE 4.0,
Okay.
which was very, very old. And I don't think I ever actually installed it,
Mhm,
but I would occasionally boot it up just to mess with it,
mhm.
just in the live CD. Like it was only really every like 5-10 minutes, like sessions,
Yep, yep.
because I didn't really know what to do with it at the time. And then it was sort of a spiral into different things.
Mhm,
So I didn't really fully get into any amount of Linux in any practical sense until high school,
mhm, mhm.
when they had a fun little thing where they had not bothered to lock down the bootloaders.
Uh-huh.
So I installed a Puppy Linux USB stick, and went around, sat down at a computer, plugged it into the thing, and sat there playing Mario for the whole thing using MuPen 64 Plus. Just
Mhm.
sitting there lunchtimes, just doing that. That's generally what I would do, and that was a fun time. It was always fun. And then I'd have wine so I could play the executable Flash games that you'd find, because
Ah,
you
yep.
get those two variants where they're standard Swift files and Flash like full on Flash games with the Flash player embedded into it.
Mhm, mhm.
And it's like, I still want to play those, but I can't because they lock down the system so you can't run executables, but you can run Flash files. So it was like, all right, I have this Puppy Linux thing. Let's just plug it in and use Wine.
Mhm.
Way back when. That was my first use of Wine. Um, Trying to get anything more than that working was way more of a pain than I even knew, so I didn't even bother with it.
Yep.
Um, I didn't run Linux full time until towards the end of my uni. No, no, not the end of my uni. The end of my high school
Mhm.
situation, when it was, I believe it was year 11 and 12. We had these laptops that were given out to us year 10. I think
Ah.
because I was in the IT courses. I was one of the first to get that thing.
Oh, that's
It was a
cool.
scheme where you pay a certain amount of money every year for over the course of 3 years, and they essentially give you a laptop with a
I had the
3 year
exact same
license to all the
thing.
software.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, it was a government scheme, I think, that they
Mhm.
scrapped not long after they created. But so if you got into it, you were really lucky.
Mhm,
And that laptop was really good. It was a Acer 3830T with a 120 gig SSD and a 4 gigs of RAM. It was
What year
it
was
was
this?
pretty reasonable. That was, let's see, it would have been year 10 when I got that. Let's see, I'm trying to think. It's
Gotta
been
work out
so
the
long.
years.
It's been so long. I don't have that laptop anymore.
Mhm.
But it was not bad. i5 2450M, I think it was. It
Okay,
wasn't the
okay.
graphics card variant, but it was pretty reasonable for the time.
Mhm.
And after a while, I got really pissed off with Windows for some reason, or something like that. Ended up installing Ubuntu on it and used that for the rest of the year, essentially, until I think I was dual booting at the time
Mhm.
on one. And because I got really in with the IT guys at the school,
Mhm.
so I found myself able to request, hey, I need to repair this little part of the laptop because there was an accidental warranty on it and stuff
Yep,
like
yep.
that. While you're repairing it, you mind if you get the guy to upgrade the SSD for me with this SSD? He gave him a Samsung SSD.
Yep.
And so next minute I had a 250 gig SSD. And back then it was quite expensive. It was like
Mhm.
$250 for it.
Oh, wow.
It was not cheap. And then they upgraded the RAM as well. So it was like, now I got 8 gigs of RAM,
Oh,
250 gig
wow.
SSD. The thing actually runs really well. And it was really nice to have a dual booting setup with that.
Mhm.
And I would sit there and just mess around all the time. It was Steam was in its early days. There were some native Linux things. Proton wasn't really that much of a thing.
Mhm.
So, it was still painful to get certain things working, but for
Yeah,
what I did, it was fine. I spent most of my time playing Terraria anyway.
I miss like those early days of school laptops, school IT, because they sort of caught on to how terrible their systems were as my cohort was going through it.
Yeah.
When I joined my school in grade 8, the admin password that would unlock the internet connection, that would
Ooh.
disconnect, because they had these like locks for like, couldn't
Yeah.
launch programs. It was admin. The admin password was admin, and they
Oh,
thought no one would
lovely.
guess it. It's like,
Yeah, my IT guys were a lot more into it than they're.
well, when they changed it to someone's date of birth. So these guys weren't the smartest.
Oh no, that's pretty sad. No, the biggest contender that our IT guys had to worry about was the fact that a lot of uh, teachers did not understand how to keep their passwords a secret.
That also happened,
So
yes.
I think I remember one point I was in a class standing behind a teacher. He logged in on his computer and I saw him type his password out like finger poking, like
Yep, yep,
bonk,
yep.
bonk, 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 bonk. I'm like, I now know your password. Cool, I can watch YouTube whenever I want without having to pay. Of course, there was a lot more other things you could do when they eventually changed the password, because once word got to the IT guys that was the thing, that had happened and that password had gotten out, it was now you have to change your password.
Yep.
Imagine how frustrating the teachers would have been just because, oh, you have to change your password now. It got out. Like, what? How'd that happen?
They stuck a camera behind you. Yes, that's what happened.
In the form of 2 eyes and a nose. And yeah, that was always an entertaining situation to see. And then what was it? What else was there? When we had the laptops initially, they were using the original images for the whole school, the same images for the whole school. So that's what they gave us. Right. So they were completely locked down images, and you couldn't do anything with them. But because they were bought laptops that the students were purchasing, people would just go, "Oh, we're paying for this anyway. Let's just mess with it," and they couldn't really say anything. Eventually, they released a specific image for those laptops where it was like, now you have admin rights.
Yeah.
And it was a lot easier to deal with. You didn't have to worry about logging in and all that sort of stuff.
Yep.
But most of the laptops had gone out by that point, and a lot of people could not be bothered to go in and get their systems re-imaged.
Yep.
And they would just grab one of those NT password USB sticks or something like that, or like, one of those recovery USB sticks. Unlock the local admin password that's on every Windows computer thing, and that's what they would do. It was just, yep, now we've got access, we're fine. So I knew so many people that were running that local admin account as their main account because of that. It was like, this is really bad. Because that local admin account, I don't think you could ever enable UAC for it or anything like that, because it was an administrator account. Like, it was like really poor security. I'm just like, that's probably not great. When I ended up doing the same thing for my laptop as well, and I think I remember I got the local admin account and created myself a sub account for it, but then I installed Linux on it anyway, so I was like,
It didn't matter in the first place.
No, it didn't matter in the end anyway.
For my school, it was a little bit harder because so you had those Windows devices. We didn't. We had Macs. So when I started school, you know the old white shell Mac?
Oh, yeah, like the G4s and the those sorts of...
The 2012... It's just like the white clamshell 2012 Mac.
That all aluminum
2010,
ones or
whatever year it was.
Plastic ones? I can't remember.
Yeah, it was like all plastic body. It was
okay, yeah,
gross.
them in the G4s.
But didn't stop us, because turns out there is a lot of older games that were made to run perfectly fine on those Macs. So we would play a lot of games built on the built on top of the Quake engine. Turns out they all run on Macs. So
yeah, because people created ports for it and all that sort of stuff. It's like, Just move the pack files over and everything works.
So we're playing things like Urban Terror, Assault Cube, things
Ooh.
like this. Turns out also Halo 1 has a Mac version. So we also played Halo 1
Nice.
and COD 4. Turns out COD 5 also has a Mac version.
That reminds me of the library Halo tournaments people used to randomly put on the PCs there.
Yep.
It was like one guy keeping their eye out for the teacher to make sure the teacher, because you can't play, you're not supposed to play those games.
Mhm.
It's like, oh, quick, the teacher's coming. Alt tab.